Hello and welcome to my Kerapac the Bound Mechanics Guide. This guide isn't here to tell you how to get efficient kills, it's more for beginners who are trying to get their first few kills and get used to the mechanics of the boss. So without further ado, let's get into it. So just some small details about Kerapac the Bound. Kerapac is combat level 3000 with 600,000 life points and uses the main combat style magic. However, Kerapac also does use melee in the normal mode when doing a certain ability which I'll get into during phases 1 through 3. So the requirements and recommendations. First of all, I would recommend 99 range so that you can take advantage of Ruby Criminal Bolts Enchanted, which are going to be a massive help on getting you kills. Now, I did use the decimation for some of the kills that I got on this boss. However, when I swapped over to a royal crossbow with the Ruby Criminals, I found that to be much easier and it allowed me to get a lot more damage output done to him. The kill time was a lot better as well, and I just found the kill a lot more enjoyable with that. Going forwards, I would then recommend at least 90 defense, mainly so that you can take advantage of the Serenic armor, which has a bonus to your range as well. So I was using Death Lotus throughout these kills, as you can see, and whilst, you know, it's alright for defense, I didn't have much going for me in terms of offensive stats, and as you can see, a lot of the time I, wouldn't hit on Kerapac, which made the kill time a lot slower and ended up going through a lot of resources. Beyond that, the absolute minimum that you're going to want is 43 prayer so that you protect from all combat styles. However, I would always recommend higher. Going forwards, I would then recommend 67 or 96 summoning, so you can either get a War Tortoise, a Pack-Yak, or a Ripper Demon Familiar. Of course, the Ripper Demon Familiar will require 68 Archaeology and 96 Slayer. Now, depending on the gear that you've got will depend on the Familiar you'll want. So I was going with full Death Lotus, so I took myself a Familiar because although, a Ripper Demon might have sped up the kill, I did test with a Ripper Demon and I found that I just was not doing enough damage to sort of, last with just an inventory of food and brews. I needed to have a Pack-Yak with me in order to survive. Of course, if you're feeling a lot more confident with the gear that you've got, and you've got higher tier gear, I would definitely recommend that Ripper Demon to get some faster kills. Beyond that as well, you'll want to complete the quest City of Centiston. So for gear, I would recommend taking ranged gear since Kerapac uses Mage as his primary attack style and hits very accurately with it, so using some range armor is going to be really important for that. I would recommend Serenic armor, which is augmented, along with either Ascension crossbows or the Royal crossbow, whilst Ascensions obviously are better. I did use the Royal crossbow with Ruby Criminal Bolts Enchanted, and I found that to be really helpful. If you don't have the Ruby Criminals, I probably wouldn't recommend the Royal crossbow. Beyond that as well, if you do have one, an Essence of Finality is going to help you massively to get those kills down quicker. Unfortunately on my Iron Man I'm yet to get one, so I couldn't show that being used in this video, but an Essence of Finality along with this stuff is going to be really important for you. As I mentioned before, I did do this in full Death Lotus with a decimation, so this gear isn't a requirement, it is more of a recommendation and things that I would like to have in order to do this kill. And I haven't shown other things like the gloves, boots, ring slots and amulet slots other than the Essence of Finality, because I find that with a lot of these, it really comes down to sort of personal preference to a degree of what you feel that you need more. We all know what the best in slots are. I figured that you could all sort of go and make your own judgment on that one. So, Familiars, as we mentioned, the War Tortoise or Pack-Yak or the Ripper Demon are the three Familiars I would personally go with. Now, if you do decide to go with the Ripper Demon, I would recommend setting its special attack on auto attacks to be 1, so that you're constantly getting those special attacks being used, and I would probably take some summoning potions or the prayer and summoning hybrid potion in order to keep your summoning points high so that your Familiar can keep using its special attack. Beyond that, I would recommend obviously a Pack-Yak over a War Tortoise, however I do believe it would be possible with a War Tortoise as well. In order to get there are three main methods. The first one is going to be going to War's Retreat and going through the portal. This is a temporary portal as this is the newest boss at the time of recording to be released into the game, and so as they do with all the new bosses, there is a portal there. Now if you're watching this video and that portal is no longer there, the next best bet is to use the Pontifex Shadow Ring in order to teleport to the Centiston Cathedral, or otherwise if you don't have either of those, I would recommend using the Ancient Door at the Archaeology Guild. So getting on with the actual battle, once you've entered the battle and Kerapac has started attacking you, you're going to be doing more or less the same thing throughout phases 1, 2 and 3. Essentially, what's going to happen is Kerapac is going to do some auto attacks with magic, and you're just going to want to pray against magic. Now, after a few auto attacks, Kerapac will use Staff Siphon, in which Kerapac will raise his staff into the air and then slam it down, and it'll stun the player for 3 seconds. I found that if you spam click away when he's doing this lift the staff into the air, you can avoid this stun. Now, while some people might say, why don't you anticipate or why don't you freedom, I'd recommend saving those for the next mechanic, which I'll detail in a second. So, yeah, if you do get stunned, just spam click. You can avoid the attack even if you do get stunned without getting hit by it. Now, what the attack's going to do is just siphon some magic damage between a point beyond you and Kerapac. So if you're stood in that lane, you're going to get hit for damage. All you've got to do really is just step out of this and you'll be free from the damage. The second attack is going to be the Staff Slam, where Kerapac will fly into the air and then dive at the player. This is where I would save my freedom and my anticipation, because this can get quite messy. Now, what you're going to want to do when you see him go into the air is pray from melee, because when he slams down, he is going to deal rapid high melee damage. If you're protecting from this, you'll be fine. If not, you could end up getting killed pretty quickly. So as soon as he goes in the air, throw on protect from melee and then use anticipate before he lands on you, and then as soon as he does land on you, just run away from him and get out of that melee range. Then for the second attack that he does with it, I would then just use freedom to get out of that one. So Kerapac is going to do this jump in the air and land on you 3 times. The third time, whilst it will stun you, he isn't going to do rapid melee damage, he will just hit you once with melee. So I'd keep protect from melee on, however after that, you're not going to have to worry about getting specced out by him, so being stunned in that position isn't a big deal. Next up is going to be the power of the staff. This is where Kerapac will summon like a huge wall of energy, which is going to just go across the entire arena, similar to the Queen Black Dragon big firewall. However, there are no gaps in this wall from what I've seen. The best method to deal with this would be to surge through the wall. Now in phase 1 there's just going to be 1 wall. In phase 2 there will be 2 walls which don't go parallel to each other, they'll be at different angles and will go through. And then in phase 3 there will be 3 walls, and they are a lot harder to dodge. However, the same tactic applies of just trying to surge through those and avoid them. If you run through them as they're coming towards you, you will take less hits from it than if you were to just stand still and it goes over you. It's worth really bearing in mind that in phase 3 this can be deadly for you. I would really recommend eating up to full so that you can avoid getting specced out by that if you do get stuck or your surge throws you into a dodgy position. Phase 2 is going to be more or less the same as Phase 1, and Phase 3 is going to follow a similar sort of stance to what I'm going to discuss here, but the main difference is going to be that you're going to have the Time Split ability come up and be usable. Now this ability takes a snapshot of your life points, ability cooldowns, adrenaline prayer points, and your location, and 10 seconds after pressing it, it is going to basically restore you to that point exactly as you were. So your ability cooldowns will be the same, your health will be the same, your position will be the same, everything. Now this is going to be really useful for getting high DPS rotations down on this boss, because you could click on this ability and then use your ultimates, and then 10 seconds later you're going to have all your adrenaline back and your ultimate's going to be back at its reset. Alternatively, if you were to use something like Shadow Tendrils followed by Snapshot to get loads of damage dealt in one quick movement on Kerapac, 10 seconds later your health will be restored from the Shadow Tendrils damage, and both abilities will be back at full refresh. So making use of this is going to be really important for getting quicker kills, and of course quicker kills means less resources and less chance of dying. Now each of the mechanics has a very slight change in phases 2 and 3. So for the Staff Siphon attack, where Kerapac normally opens a rift that channels energy into him, there's going to be 2 of those rifts, and basically all you got to do is just dodge both of them. It's pretty simple, that one. Now when it comes to Staff Slam, when Kerapac goes into the air, he will also send up an echo of himself into the air, which will do the same attack. However, this echo isn't going to land where you are, it lands kind of randomly, which is interesting, so it's not always going to be an issue. However, what will happen is, if it does land on you with Kerapac, both Kerapac and his Echo will deal rapid melee damage to you, so it's going to be important to get away from that quickly. As well as that, with Staff's power, instead of just one wall coming towards you, there is going to be 2 walls on phase 2 and 3 walls on phase 3. So yeah, in phase 2 there's going to be 2 of each attack, in phase 3 there's going to be 3 of each. So there's not really too much difference there, it's just a little bit harder and you're going to probably go through a lot more food. Now in phase 4, Kerapac will become enraged and will recover himself to 75k health. He's going to then use the Staff of Armadillo ability, Kerapac's Fury, which starts at stack of 5 and every auto attack is going to increase the attack stack by 10. Now this stack then increases the damage that he outputs, as well as reduces the effectiveness of your protection prayers. So the longer Kerapac is alive, the more damage he's going to do, but also the less damage you're going to be able to protect from. So it's going to be important in this final phase to just DPS him out as quick as possible. There isn't really much else to discuss in this phase, that's all you're going to have to put up with. All of the other mechanics are out the window. It really is just a DPS battle from here. Now let's discuss the drops that this boss can drop. I'm not going to go into every single drop, just the special rewards. Now the first 3 items are the Fractured Armadillo Symbol, the Fractured Stabilization Gem, and the Staff of Armadillo's Fractured Shaft, all used to make the Staff of Armadillo. Next up is Kerapac's Wrist Wraps, which are tier 85 magic gloves, which give a 13 magic bonus and 96 armor, and their special ability is that for 6 seconds after using the Dragon Breath ability, damage dealt from the Combust ability will happen instantly and deal 25% more damage. Next up is going to be the Greater Concentrated Blast ability codex, which it's just an upgrade to the Concentrated Blast ability. Alongside that is the Scripture of Jazz, which is a book similar to the other god books, but this one can't be illuminated, and basically for 10 seconds all damage from your abilities whilst Time Rift is activated gets stored. Once the Time Rift closes, 20% of the total damage is applied to your opponent. And then finally is the Kerapac's Mask Piece, which is just the Kerapac boss pet. So yeah, that's kind of all of the drops, and that's it for this guide. I know this isn't like some 2-minute kill extreme super guide. This is basically for people who want to take on the boss but don't have the absolute best in slots. Although I recommend the best in slots, it's definitely doable without those, and I think it's important to be able to push bosses to people who don't have all of the best gear in the game. So yeah, I hope this helps. If there's anything you think that I've missed, please let me know down below and I'll look to improve it in future videos. Once I have gotten a better DPS rotation on this boss, as well as a bit of better gear and understand more of an efficient kill, I will release a guide detailing how to get quicker kills, but for now, I figured getting something out there so people can actually just take on the boss right away is more important. So thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, please leave a like down below, subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you all in the next video.